Welcome back to The Freelance Teacher. You see my website here in front of you, High School and College Help for Hire. This is related to those things, but this class is going to be a little bit different because what we're looking at now is literacy. Welcome to Literacy Boot Camp. This is going to be food for your brain. It's going to maybe cover some things that you didn't have when you were in middle school or in grade school. I think after what I've seen over the last 2+ decades, that literacy, especially the active literacies, that's speaking, and it's also, remember, not just speaking, but writing. And then you have your passive literacies, that's listening, what you're doing now, or reading. Well, all of those literacies are lacking. Let's face it. Did you have grammar when you were a child in elementary school or in middle school? Have you had practice diagramming sentences? We're going to do those sometimes less than entertaining activities because guess what? The common denominator for your success in many fields is your level of literacy. Yeah, there's going to be jargon. If you're going into engineering, there's a language of that. If you're going into education, or if you're going into math, you're going into social sciences, there's a jargon, there's a kind of language that's used within the field. However, basic literacy in English is lacking, and you may be somebody who needs a boost. This is your human growth hormone, for lack of a better word, for steroids. This is injected into your brain, and once you cover in our main lesson, which is sentence diagramming, it will clear up how English is built, how sentences are built. You'll have a basic building block in place for all of your writing, all of your speaking, and the things that you need to read, well, they'll be demystified as well. So the rationale is pretty simple. What I'd like you to do on your own, I was going to read some of this stuff to you, but it's overkill. Take a look at, for example, we're talking about literacy now. Take a look at The Last of the Mohicans by James Fenimore Cooper. That book was written in the 1820s. Have you ever tried to read it? Supposedly, this is the myth. There were a bunch of hayseeds in the colonies and nobody really could read, and literacy was low, and only the elite could read, and some of the masses could read the Bible or maybe have it read to them. That's a myth. People could read, and they could read at a high level. Look at The Last of the Mohicans. You'll struggle picking up that book. Go on Project Gutenberg and read it on your phone for free. It was a bestseller. Huge numbers of regular Americans picked up James Fenimore Cooper's Last of the Mohicans. That's the early 1800s. Let's go further back. Let's go to Thomas Paine's Common Sense. Sold hundreds of thousands of copies in a 13 colonies pre-United States that was about 3 million people. You're looking at easily a fifth of the entire country read Thomas Paine's Common Sense. Have you ever looked at it? Why don't you go read it? You can find it for free on the internet. It's difficult. People were more literate and more capable basically because they had to be. They didn't have all this getup that you have, that you see me here with the headphones and the computer and the laptop. Right, here I am, just a regular English teacher with 25 years of experience in his bedroom, sharing things with you that back then that wasn't a choice. You had to go get high-end lit, and you had to read it on your own, and you had to practice at a high level. And what they did in the old one-room schoolhouses, or what they did, because there really wasn't much school going on then, what they did at home was they learned how language was built, and they practiced difficult things. That's what we're going to do. This will save you. This might change everything. I call it Literacy Boot Camp because I'm convinced that these are things that have been lost. These are tools that, as Dorothy Sayers would say, the lost tools of learning, where you have the old way where, again, I used Last of the Mohicans and Thomas Paine's Common Sense, just as two quick examples that John Taylor Gatto shared with me. There's plenty of other things that you can look at as well. Look at anything basically before, let's say, 1950. Find it and read it, and you'll see a major difference. This could change everything for you. Score higher on your exams. You'll understand more. You'll be more confident as a reader and as a writer. And what happens then is you separate yourself from everybody else. You go from just one of the many young teenagers, maybe teenage Americans, if you're reading this or if you're following this or you've bought this class overseas, you're just, you may be just one of many who are like you. I know here in the States, we have a lot of teenagers and young people who are not very literate. Their writing skills are atrocious. They can't speak clearly or correctly. They don't understand how language is built. And if you ask them to be elegant and clear and thoughtful in writing and speech, they can't do it. Well, this is going to fix that. I'm going to give you, and the majority of this is going to be sentence diagramming. This is ask your grandma what it was like, because she'll remember. This is stuff that we're going to do together. I will help you. We'll go slowly. And after you do sentence diagramming with me in this first part of Literacy Bootcamp, I think you're going to be a better writer, a better speaker. You'll be more clear, and you'll be able to think and create with more clarity, be more hireable. It's just a net plus every which way you can think about it. So let's get started. Let's do our Literacy Bootcamp, and we're going to start with sentence diagramming. We'll go through it together, and I think it's going to work out well. I think it's going to make a big difference in your life. I know that sounds grand, but it's true. I've seen it, and now I'm sharing it with you. Let's get started.